Emperor Hirohito of Japan writes a poem. Peaceful is morning in the shrine garden. World conditions, it is hoped, will also be peaceful. The imperial poetry mirrors the Japan that most of the world wants to know. A picturesque land where nature is arranged in graceful patterns, and where people are arranged around the patterns. The Japanese live in a remote, feudal age whose philosophy is warlike, built on a worship of the nation, of Japan itself. Materially, the Japanese emulate the West, but spiritually they belong to the East. Hirohito receives the homage of his 73 million subjects, not as poet of peace, but as warrior god, as both priest and emperor. He is Heika Denka, sublime majesty. He is Tenchi-sama, son of heaven. He is destined by divine right to seek domination of all the world. And so it comes about that in 1945, the American Fifth Fleet steams in battle formation toward Japan to smother the domination which set afire the Far East. After 3.5 years of war, the long arm of Allied sea power reaches out to throttle aggression at its source. Huge task groups, 1,500 ships, 550,000 sailors, coast guardsmen, soldiers, marines, all under the command of Admiral Spruance. An assault as large as the Normandy invasion is bearing down on the island of Okinawa, 300 miles south of the Japanese home islands, 6,000 miles from continental United States. What the Japanese once thought to be impossible, what the Allies hardly dared hope, is about to become reality. It is Easter morning, April 1st, 1945, when the troops go ashore at Okinawa. It is also April Fool's Day. Strangely, ominously, there is no resistance. But no one is fooled. Within hours, Okinawa becomes the same old story. Resistance stiffening is the word from advance units. And then, greatly increased resistance. And then, 83 days of slow, deadly, savage struggle. Okinawa knocks open the door to Japan itself. Not a sailor, not a soldier, not a marine, not a man in the world knows this is to be the last great battle of the war. A war branded by great battles. Tokyo. The Japanese government meets an emergency session. The government knows Okinawa is a smoldering beacon of coming defeat. The government knows it must rally the people in a last desperate effort to stave off collapse. Propaganda gives way to harsh, intolerable truth. The Japanese sun is setting. Schools and hospitals, children and nurses, young and old, crippled and infirm, are harnessed to the war machine. With factories smashed by air raids, with manpower consumed at the fronts, with production falling, with the enemy approaching, every citizen of Japan is ordered to increase production, stand firm, drive on. Army is isolated, the Air Force broken, the Navy sunk. But one group is left to save Japan, the Kamikaze. Pilots pledged to crash themselves and their planes into enemy warships. The Japanese raise suicide to the status of a military tactic. Kamikaze pilots believe that by dying for the Emperor, they live forever. And some even attend their own funerals before the final takeoff. Some fly in their burial robes. All wear a sacred scarf, symbolizing their sacred mission. The pilots take their final vow. I am determined to destroy with my own body the enemy craft that menace our holy soil. I shall strike without returning. Farewell. We shall meet at the Yasukuni Shrine. At the Yasukuni Shrine, where the hero dead of Japan achieved godhood. It is April the 6th. From the island of Kyushu, 350 suicide planes take off for Okinawa. To those they leave behind, to the life they leave behind, one final government announcement. Valiantly, the young eagles dash forth to attack along a path from which there is no homecoming. Spread far and wide around and around Okinawa. Scores of ships are destined to fall victim of suicide attack before the Kamikazes have done their worst. Around the fleet, around the island, radar pickets are ringed. Watchdog destroyers, whose mission it is to detect oncoming Japanese planes, plot their course, speed, and range, and alert the bigger boys. From the destroyer picket line go out the first warnings of the long, racking, nerve-shattering ordeal of the fleet at Okinawa. If it be now, 'tis not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. The fleet is ready. But one method, and only one, can stop the Kamikaze. Shoot him down before he has a chance to crash himself against a ship. American pilots pit courage and skill against the self-destroying frenzy of the Japanese. One last weapon remains against the forces that break through the combat air patrols. Anti-aircraft fire, as intense, murderous, and impenetrable as the ships can possibly make it. The battle becomes a duel between gunners who want to live and pilots who want to die. Attacks are incessant, the damage staggering. To die is to die, but to live is to fight. And the fleet that came to stay fights and lives and stays. Ships with famous names like Bunker Hill and Enterprise, Idaho and New Mexico, Tennessee and Nevada are damaged. The Kamikaze becomes the greatest threat encountered by the United States fleet in World War II. The suffering is terrible, the casualties worse. Night brings no respite, darkness no relief. The fantastic contest between those who fight to live and those who fight to die goes on around the clock. This was the opportunity the Japanese had been waiting for. The Kamikaze pilots would trade a plane for a ship, trade suicide for glory. But the ships carry on. Whenever a ship is hit, others come to the rescue. The risks of death are great, but the determination to save a shipmate is greater. Hundreds of sailors are trapped below. Others, hemmed in by flames, escape over the side. While the harsh struggle for Okinawa, on land, at sea, in the air, grinds on toward victory, free men everywhere suffer defeat. 9,000 miles away, in the United States, the commander-in-chief has fallen. A casualty of war as surely as if a kamikaze had felled him at the helm. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, defender of democracy, foe of tyranny, architect of victory, is dead. He loved the fleet, its men, its ships, the sea. But as President of the United States, the Navy could but share his allegiance. His life was full, and the elements so mixed in him that nature might stand up and say to all the world, this was a man. And at Okinawa, 1 out of every 7 naval casualties in World War II result from the fight for Okinawa. Of the 1,500 ships engaged in the campaign, 30 were sunk, 223 damaged. 8 carriers were hit, but all survived. More than 3,500 kamikaze planes were destroyed. The greatest suicide offensive in history waxed and waned and collapsed. If the sailors at Okinawa bled, so did the soldiers and Marines ashore. If the Japanese were determined to commit suicide, the Americans were determined to live. If this last battle of World War II was one of the greatest, so was the victory.